Welcome back, Trip City Rundown. Today we will be talking about the 10 most overpaid players in the NBA. Let's get into it. Okay guys, so today, like you saw in the intro, 10 most overpaid players. The NBA, the salary cap, it keeps going up. Players keep making more money, but there are still some players in the league that are making way more money than they should, and today we're going to talk about it. I am not saying these players are bad players. I'm not even going to say they're good players. I'm just going to say that they are making more money than they should. Got 10 players on the list, and honestly, I don't know if I believe in my list because some players might be more overpaid than others. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please debate me, debate each other. I'm very curious because one player might be making 50 mil, but he is better and deserves it over a guy making 30 mil. So let's jump into it. Okay, first guy is Ben Simmons. All right, Ben Simmons makes $40 million. Look, what team is Ben Simmons even on at this point? Half of us don't even know. He doesn't play, unfortunately. I wish he did. He's a hell of a talent, but he doesn't play. He sits on the bench, collects his money, and you are, by default, you have to be the most overrated player. He doesn't play games. You're the most overpaid player if you don't play. He is number one on the list. $40 million. That's literally a sunk cost. The second player is Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine on the Bulls. He had a nice run, probably starting right after he left Minnesota, basically in Chicago for like 3-4 years. He had a great run, but he's been hurt. He hasn't been healthy. He has probably lost a step. He plays for a team that is rebuilding, I think, and he makes $43 million, which is 17th in the league. Is he the 17th best player in the league? No. Does he deserve $43 million? No, but that's the thing about overpaid players. Zach LaVine probably deserved that money 3-4 years ago. But if you don't perform for your contract, you start to get into the space of being overpaid. And Zach LaVine is extremely overpaid for what he is at this point in his career with the injuries. I hope he proves me wrong this year and comes back and is amazing, but for now he's number 2 on the list in terms of being overpaid. Number 3 on the list is Bradley Beal. Some of you guys thought I'd put him at 1, but you can't. Ben Simmons is the runaway favorite at 1 here. He doesn't play. Bradley Beal plays, but he makes 50 mil. He makes more than his teammates, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. Bradley Beal is a great player. He's not the 5th best player in the league, though, and he gets paid the 5th most. We saw what happened in the playoffs, and I don't want to overreact and say that he's now a bad player, but a good way to describe Bradley Beal is he is a lower-level star in terms of, look, he's the 3rd option on a team that got bounced in the first round. The team on paper is great, but you want to pay a guy 50 mil to be your 3rd option and not really give you anything on the defensive end of the floor. He's overpaid. He's a great player, but he's overpaid. The 4th player on the list. This might be a little bit surprising to people until you hear how much he makes. It's Cat. It's Karl-Anthony Towns at number 4. He makes $49 million a year, 6th in the league. I'm sorry, he's not the 6th best player in the NBA. He's not even the best player on his team. You could even argue, he's the 2nd option on his team, but you could argue he could possibly be the 3rd most important player on the team. Depends on what you think of Gobert. But Anthony Edwards is the star and the number 1 option in Minnesota. And again, to me, if you're going to make $49 million a year, you got to be a number 1 option. And you also got to be great on both ends of the floor if you're going to be a top 6 paid player in the league. And Karl-Anthony Towns is not that. He's one of the best shooters for big men ever. And I'll give him his flowers for that. But in terms of team success, individual success, he's a former number 1 overall pick. I think he's had a successful career. Don't get me wrong. Great player. 49 mil is too much for Cat, and I think everyone would agree on that. At number 5 is his teammate, Rudy Gobert. Another kind of surprising one. He makes $43 million, 15th in the league. He's not a top 15 player. He's just not. And this list is showing me that Minnesota has, shelled out some cash for their big 3. And I put that in quotes because I don't know if people actually call them a big 3, but they're 3 very important players. And Minnesota went to the conference finals last year. Don't forget that. But Rudy Gobert, he's a defensive specialist, doesn't give you much on offense, although he is efficient, but 43 mil for a guy that gets played off the floor in the playoffs is a little hefty for me. And I hope you guys can understand where I'm coming from in terms of Gobert's overpaid. And honestly, Minnesota probably overpaid for Gobert in the trade too. They gave up 5 firsts for Gobert. We're going to have an interesting look back on Gobert's career because he's won multiple Defensive Players of the Year, but he's always just been played off the floor in big spots. You can't really trust him in a big playoff series. He's an awesome regular season player, And I'm not saying he chokes in the playoffs, but his skill set doesn't really translate to the playoffs. And if I'm going to pay a guy 43 mil, I'd like to have him in the playoffs. Number 6, as a Blazer fan, kind of hurts, but DeAndre Ayton is number 6. He makes 34 mil. Okay, and in the new NBA age, 34 mil is not as much as you think, just with the salary cap rising and everything. But for what Ayton provides, 34 mil is too much. Especially, and this is unfair to Ayton, you're comparing him now as a Blazer fan to Donovan Clingan, who's going to be on a rookie deal and probably be just as impactful. And there are so many centers that make less than Ayton that I would probably rather have than him at this point. I think Ayton's issue is once he got his bag of 34 mil, I think the incentive to really compete and play hard probably dropped. And you're also playing on a terrible team in Portland. I'll say it first, my team stinks. Okay, we suck. But I understand why Ayton might not be as competitive because the Blazers are a terrible team, but 34 mil is a lot in my opinion. Number 7, this is kind of shocking to people and probably one that you guys might disagree with. It's Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi at number 7. He makes 49 mil. Cat makes 49 mil. Kawhi makes 49 mil. So they're both 6th in the league. Kawhi deserves that money when he's on. The problem is he is always hurt. He never can play in the playoffs. He never can put a full season together. He always, if it's a 50-50 chance, to me it feels like as an outsider looking in, I can't speak for what actually goes on, but 49 mil for a guy who is going to lean on the side of not playing when it's 50-50 if he should play or not. He always sits in big spots. The Clippers need him in the playoffs, and he can never put together a full postseason. And personally, I think I'm overpaying a player that I know there's over a 50% chance he's not going to make it for the whole season. Almost $50 million for that? I can't do it. He's number 7. Number 8. This guy used to be top 3, but he went to the Pistons and now makes a little less money. But Tobias Harris is number 8 at 25 mil. 25 mil is the lowest number on this list, but Tobias Harris just has such a history of making like 40 mil for the Sixers and doing nothing that I couldn't leave him off this list. He somehow is making $25 million for the Pistons, and the Pistons had a ton of cap space. I get they're trying to get, maybe a couple bigger contracts to get them to be expiring in a few years and then more cap space. They got to sign someone into the cap space, and Tobias is someone who fits that perfectly. But he's still overpaid, and just his history of being overpaid and being an underperformer, just that alone was going to put him on this list. At number 9, $43 million, Trae Young. Trae Young, number 9. $43 million for a 28 point per game scorer who is an all-star, fringe all-star starter at times. Seems a little harsh for Trae Young, but to me, Trae Young does not impact winning at all. And he's one of the worst defenders in the league. And unfortunately, and when I say this, I'm kind of coming at like an Anthony Simmons too, but there are just so many great scorers in the league. Scoring is not a commodity in the league. You have to have it, but almost everyone can do it. Think of guys like Tyler Hero, Anthony Simmons, obviously Trae Young. Basically every guard, like even Quickly got paid because he can put the ball in the hoop. Trae Young makes too much money to me because, look, if you have $43 million, is Trae Young going to be your guy you want to sign to that if you're trying to win a championship? No. And I get that Atlanta is investing in Trae Young because, he brings marketing. You can sell tickets with Trae Young because he's a microwave scorer. He's exciting to watch. And, he is the face of I was almost say the Falcons. He's the face of the Hawks. So I get all that off the court stuff. Strictly on the court, I think he's overpaid. And finally, at number 10 is Michael Porter Jr. making $35 million a year. MPJ is a 3-point specialist. He does other things too, but when I saw he was making the same amount of money as Shea, that kind of told me that he's overpaid. Or maybe Shea's underpaid. You can make that case too. I'm not here to argue that Shea is properly paid at 35. Should probably make more money, but MPJ as a third, fourth option on that Nuggets team making $35 million seems a little much because as a 3-point shooter, I feel like there's just a lot of those in the league. He's a solid defender. He's not great. I think the Nuggets would be better if they used their 35 on someone else. So I'm going to say he's slightly overpaid. And that's the list, guys. Please let me know what you agree with, what you disagree with. I think we can all agree that those top 3, LaVine, Simmons, and Beal, are all overpaid. But I had some hot takes. Kawhi, Trae Young, even Gobert, you could say, MPJ. So please let me know in the comments who I left out, who you would have put in, if you think these guys deserve to even be on the list. Let me know what you guys think, and we'll see you next time.